I'm just going to hit record. So in case you have to jump off early or people who missed it, we're going to record it for them. So I just want to welcome you all to Northern Now, the digital event series presented by NMU Alumni Relations for our alumni and friends. My name is Kylie Bunting. I am the digital engagement architect of Alumni Relations here at NMU, and I'm really glad that you have joined us for tonight's Brew Chat. We're excited to continue this series and share some insight from some fellow alumni brewers. But first, a couple of logistics. While we are unable to see and hear you on this webinar format, we still want to hear from you. So as I mentioned, drop in the chat what you're drinking. I will also be monitoring the Q&A section. So please put any comments or questions or anything for our brewers in there, and I'll relay those messages to them. Also, as I mentioned, use that chat function so you can talk to each other and fellow alumni on the call. Just one quick thing there, the default setting is sending to all panelists. Make sure that you're sending to all panelists and attendees. Otherwise, it's just going to go to the hosts of the call. So make sure you're sending your chats to everybody so everyone can see what you're talking about. Just want to touch on a couple upcoming events hosted by Alumni Relations. Northern Now takes place monthly. And back by popular demand, we have NMU's executive chef and alumna Alden Griffiths joining us in December for another holiday cooking segment. She'll be highlighting recipes rooted in traditions from around the world. Registration for that is open already, so head to our website to hop on there. And also in January, we're going to welcome a panel of theater and dance alumni. In February, we're partnering with NMU's Center for Rural Health for a discussion on rural health. And then in March, we will be joined by alumna Dr. Jess Thompson to discuss NMU's Sustainability Hub for Innovation and Environment, or SHINE. So some great things coming up. Keep an eye on our website and make sure you can join us and sign up for these events. Also, I just want to talk about Northern will hold its 5th NMU Day of Giving on November 30th, 2021. Alumni and friends from across the globe will come together to help increase academic resources and expand critical access and aid for NMU students. You can show your Northern spirit on NMU Day of Giving and keep the natural spirit that supports NMU alive and well. If you're already feeling in the giving mood, you can give now. All gifts from now until November 30th are counted towards our Day of Giving total. So you can find out more information at nmu.edu/day-of-giving. And then last but not least, make sure you're following us on social media if you're not already, and keep in touch. I'll be sharing information on there of upcoming events, some great alumni stories, things like that as well. And with that, I am going to, now I'm going to remove my Alumni Relations hat, and I'm going to be putting on my Barley's Angels UP hat for the remainder of the evening. So I am as a craft beer enthusiast myself, I started the UP chapter of Barley's Angels, which is a women's craft beer education and appreciation group. I started this group about 3 years ago. We host quarterly events at local breweries, restaurants, and craft beer bars in Marquette County and beyond. If you don't live in the UP, though, there are chapters all over. So visit barleysangels.org and you can find one near you. It's my little shameless plug for Barley's Angels. If you want more information on that, just let me know. And I'm thrilled to be here and to introduce tonight's panelists. And this conversation is going to be a really fun conversation. So a reminder, any questions that pop up, send them in that Q&A function. I'll keep an eye on the chat too, but any questions in the Q&A, I'll be sure to get to. So first, I'd like to welcome Nick VanCourt, a 2004 graduate, media productions and new technology major, my major too as well, Nick, and co-founder and head brewer of Barrel and Beam. Welcome, Nick. Can you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
You bet. Thanks, Kylie. Yeah, so I'm a Uper. I was born and raised down in Menominee County. I went to Northern, as Kylie says, for media production and biology. Ended up getting a gig at the Wisconsin DNR in Madison, which is kind of where really home brewing started to take me over. And I decided to get into a new career. with brewing, and ended up doing brewing school and working in some breweries in Wisconsin before actually making it back for Ore Dock, where I worked for 5 years before coming over here and getting Barrel and Beam started. Also, just want to mention that my wife, Marina Dupler, is our other co-founder. So it's myself and Marina, and we got a couple kids, and we're loving our life in Marquette.
Great, thank you. And next, I would like to welcome Andy Langlois, a 1995 graduate, management of health and fitness major, and co-founder and brewsician, awesome name, of Blackrocks Brewery. Welcome, Andy. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, Wildcats. How you doing? Yeah, I grew up in the UP in Kingsford area. Went to school. I guess I'm the oldest of the panelists here tonight. That just happens of it, you know. All of a sudden, you're the oldest, and I'm starting to realize that more and more. But yeah. Anyway, so 95, I believe I graduated. Went down to after graduation, formed a band, went down to Arizona, and recorded and toured around out west for a little bit. And that was into that, and still into music quite a bit. But then met my wife at Northern. Actually, I was an RA and she was a incoming freshman, and we both had dating other people at the time, but we caught each other's eye, and eventually, I don't know, 20 years later, we're married here. But we moved back from Arizona, and that's later on. I met up with my partner at Blackrocks, David Manson. We were selling drugs at the time, legal ones, pharmaceutical, and then just we were brewing every weekend, and eventually decided, well, when we retire, this is going to be really fun. We're going to do this when we retire. But the pharma industry is always laying off thousands of people at a crack when the drug goes generic. So we saw the writing on the wall. We knew one of us was going to leave, and fortunately, I got let go first, and we started Blackrocks in 2010, almost 11 years ago. My wife works at Northern too, by the way, now. Stephanie, 2 kids. They're getting old too. 20 and 18 now. Man, one's a senior at Northern.
There you go. Well, thank you. Welcome. And then last but certainly not least, I'd like to welcome Jake Shea, a 2008 NMU graduate, a biology major, and the lead brewer of Ore Dock Brewing Company. Welcome, Jake. I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Hey, thanks everybody. So I was born in Alpena, Michigan. I was the only troll transplant of the group here. But I graduated in 08, like you said, and did many fisheries jobs, is what kind of biology stuff I did for schooling here. Eventually kind of got through all this, you know, similar to Nick, doing all those jobs. You're on mostly seasonal work, and turned my parents' garage into a small brewery in the off season. So that gave me my kind of, well, this, I can do this on the side. That's fun stuff too. So I left there in 2012. I did a year in Alpena at a biorefinery, making biofuel through a cellulose hydrolysis reaction using a wastewater from a treatment plant, and fermenting that into a light beer and making ethanol out of it through distillation. So I used that as a kind of a jump off to say, hey, why don't I just go into the brewing industry? I really like making beer at home. So that was kind of a natural progression for me. And then eventually, I finally looking around for jobs, and landed right back here in Marquette, which was awesome, working under Nick. And we had a good time making a lot of good beer, and still here and doing it and having fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us. I'll jump right into some questions that I have, but again, to all of our attendees, send questions for our brewers in the Q&A function, and I'll be sure to get those to them. So first, let's just talk a little bit about what makes your brewery unique. And Nick, I'll start with you.
Well, we have a really weird brewery, so I have a lot of answers to that question, I guess. One thing that's different is we really focus completely on farmhouse ale and barrel aged sour beers. So, we don't really make IPAs or stouts, or not to say we don't make, hoppy or dark beers, but we pretty much focus on the French and Belgian sort of farmhouse ale niche. Another thing that I guess makes us unique is that we naturally carbonate everything. So basically, instead of force carbonating the beer, we warm it up, add fresh yeast and priming sugar, Michigan beet sugar, and then package essentially flat, which gives us a different kind of carbonation and shelf life that we're after. Another thing I might add is that we do a lot of Michigan source beers. So we get malted grains from Great Lakes Malting Company or UP Malt Company or other Michigan producers, hops from My Local Hops in Traverse City area, that kind of thing, to make as many of our farmhouse ales as local as possible, to kind of stick with that sort of mentality of farmhouse ale being a representation of what's available locally. That might sum it up. We do a lot of barrel aging. A lot of breweries do that, but probably maybe almost half, or maybe even more than half, our products do spend some time in a barrel. So that's a little bit different too.
Great. Andy?
Unique. Well, I think, all three breweries are pretty unique just because we're from this area. If you go downstate, there's a lot of breweries, crammed within higher density, and the UP, for a while there really wasn't a lot of there weren't a lot of breweries. It was like Keweenaw and a couple other, the Veerling in town, and I think just our location itself is pretty unique. And I don't know, I think that's great for all three of us. And as far as our brewery goes, I mean, we started on a 1-barrel system, which isn't really common. It's kind of dumb if, a lot of people will tell you, because it's just too small. What the heck are you guys doing? But when we started, we were really on a shoestring budget. So, we started on a 1-barrel system, which only makes 2 kegs each time. And, but that's what we could afford, and that's what we did. And really, I found that allowed us to brew a lot of different beers because of the turnover. You're constantly brewing. It's constantly getting drank. And by the time, we were even ready to come to market, there was so many versions of an IPA that were done, and other styles, that it really helped us kind of hone that craft a bit, where if we were on a bigger system, we wouldn't have been able to do that. And so I think, although it was tough to be on a 1-barrel system and not really brew that much beer starting out, it really helped us that way. And our, even our tap room's tiny, but that's getting a little bigger now. I think, you don't expect to go in tap rooms that are the size of a shoebox, but there's something quaint and nice about it, and we love it. But as far as unique, we're doing a lot of styles that a lot of breweries do. We are doing some barrel aging. We're doing some, all different kinds of styles, but that's not really unique. But, I guess we really do put a focus on making sure the product's solid before it goes out the door. It's actually written on the garage door, and it doesn't go out the door unless we're proud of it. So we try to live by that. I don't know. I think our as far as our pub atmosphere goes, it's very, very local centric. I think you can come by and you're gonna run into Marquette characters, people that live there and are into craft beer and from all walks of life. But and I think that's really fun when summer hits and there's more tourists in town, and you want a local experience. You're gonna run into some people, and you're gonna get to know some of these people from Marquette probably living around the corner. So yeah, that's all I got.
Great. Jake, turn it over to you.
Sure. Yeah, uniqueness is hard. I mean, because we all use the same water. I mean, that's unique to us in our special place where we live. I think as a brewery, we've kind of been all around, you know, with Nick. Nick started our barrel program here, and we've kind of continued with that, not full force, and you know, as he has, but we have continued to do great sour beers and have the Angry Bear every year still. We're more of an all-encompassing, you know, into a whole beverage kind of brewery, adding seltzers and we're starting a one barrel, or you know, as Andy started with one barrel, we're revamping our one barrel system, and I've been digging into that a little bit more. So we're doing some one-offs that are fun for the guys that don't get to brew on the big system as much. So we're putting out new barrel, you know, beers like that every time, all the time now. What else? We have, yeah, the expansion of our brewery is going to be coming here soon. As far as seating and stuff, we're hoping to go do some stuff upstairs, and having a new beer garden. And for me, it's mostly just doing different styles. I love doing German styles. I've been dabbling in lagers more. I think we're just an all-encompassing brewery, and the trends are great. We like to follow that, and I think the people really like to see that on the menu. And we try to have something for everyone, I think, is our uniqueness.
Great. We do have a couple of questions that came in actually, so I'll jump over to those. Chris wants to know how many breweries are currently in Marquette and if you anticipate any more opening up. So how many breweries we have?
Is it 6, guys?
The 3 of you, Veerling,
Driffa?
Cognition's coming, right?
Yep, and Driffa.
And Driffa.
And then isn't there
Yep.
one also coming to the
Nagani?
Yeah.
And in Marquette, I think there's one coming to what used to be the Carpenters Union Hall building, something like that.
So the answer is probably yes, more opening up, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and the one in Nagani Upper Peninsula Brewing Company, I think, is going to be opening sometime in the near future too. So it's definitely a growing industry around here for sure. And you can tell that people are now interested in craft beer up here. I remember when I lived in Chicago for a while, and then I would come back here after I was learning about craft beer there. And this was, you know, before, probably right around just when Blackrocks opened. And people here were like, craft beer, what do you mean? And now it's just completely different. I mean, everybody goes and hangs out at these breweries, and so it's really cool. It's been really cool to see the change in the last 10 years. And we were talking about this before we started this call. Where do you come up with the names for your beer? Anybody want to jump in with that?
I'll say it's the hardest part for me. And I usually come up with them by encouraging others to come up with them.
Yeah, we always have like some names in the brewery house as it is, you know, and then how far they get to the front of house, you never know. And you know, that's the fun part of it. You know, it's always a story of what came first, the name of the beer or the recipe.
Yeah, I think the pub beers are, you know, if you put something in a can or you package it and put it out on the market, you really fret over it for a while, because you want to make sure that's actually going to be, you're investing a lot of time and money in that beer. But if it's something you're spinning at the pub, there's less pressure, you know. You can come up with something that off the cuff. We have a Slack messenger for our company, and one of the topics is beer names. So it's almost like, you know, people can just put up beer names, and every now and then you can pick and go, oh, that fits that beer really well. Let's use that name. You know, sometimes they're tribute names, or references, like I'm drinking Barbaric Yop. That's a reference, Walt Whitman. Yeah, you just don't know. It's weird. They just, but when they are packaged, it's like being in a band or something. What are we going to call ourselves, man? I don't know what we're going to call it. You know, it's like, it's important. You're putting a label on it and it's going on a shelf. We better come up with something decent. So yeah, I don't have an answer for you. Sorry.
Well, I like the idea of having just like an ongoing conversation, you know, that where anytime something pops into your head, you just drop it there and then you can have a pool to choose from, hopefully.
Yep, exactly.
And then Kurt wants to know if you are experiencing any problems getting raw materials, and are you seeing inflation within your supply chain? So we've heard a lot about a lot of issues, right? Shortages and things like that. Is it affecting this industry that you guys have seen, and in what ways?
It's certainly affecting us. Pretty much everything's more expensive, or most things, I would say. And it's been harder to get, it's more like the merch and that kind of stuff. Glassware, our glass supplier can't get our glass now. So we've tried different glass printing places with varied quality, honestly. And yeah, it's kind of, we're kind of floating on a lot of things right now to find our new way to be consistent and be happy with what we're getting, I guess.
Anybody else seeing issues?
For sure, yeah. A lot of malt and stuff is traditionally we've always used a lot of UK malt and European malts, and that's a lot harder to get now, and it's becoming more expensive. So even right now, we're in the process of we've done some trials with reclamation, for example, on the one barrel system with either local malts or they're either that or from Milwaukee or Colorado or out west, stuff that it's going to be a little, price points better, and we're going to be able to get it when we need it. So we run trials and tests on the one barrel system, find out what we like, and things like that. You're going to have to make those changes. They're going to be big changes, but you have to make the best decision as a brewery and try not. That product might change a bit, but you're going to take the steps to make that product as close as it can be and as good as it as it ever was, I guess.
We're still dealing with the pandemic. We couldn't get cans for the longest time a while back, and that's pretty scary too when you have fermenters full of beer and when on-premise places aren't open to actually pour kegs, and you can't put it in kegs and you have no cans and you have it in a fermenter or bright tank. And we did luck out and found some cans in Canada, and that helped us out. But you have to have a spot to put them, and you have to buy them when they're available, and you're basically just squirreling them away for the the next drought, because it just kind of keeps coming. We're really not out of it yet. Fall canning in Fort Atkinson is usually where we get our stuff, and all the runs were taken up by a lot of the big companies, the InBevs, the Coca-Colas, and they were worried about the same thing when they saw the pandemic coming, and so they bought up a lot of the runs, and it makes it tough for breweries our size to actually function when we don't have the buying power to go ahead and do that. So you just kind of scrape up whatever you can get, and hopefully it's silver and it holds beer, and you can put a pack deck on it.
Right. And then Craig, a 98 grad who also has a freshman at NMU this year, he would like to know, did you all start with extract brewing and then move to all grain, or did you jump right into all grain?
Me and David went all grain out of the gates, and we're quite horrible at it for a little while, but it was really fun to learn and read, and all grain was, I wouldn't even know how to brew extract.
I made a couple extract batches before all grain.
Yeah,
Not very
same here. I did extract, eventually even went to partial extract, where you cook some of the grains in the oven with some water and add that to your extract mix. But it wasn't until I had those the full winters off where I got my cooler set up and went all grain and made a keggle. And that's when I was like getting more serious about it. And yeah, you make 12 gallons at a time, which is nice.
Great. Zachary would like to know, is there any more room in Marquette for breweries? How many do you think the market share can sustain? Loaded question, huh?
The town is just really booming. At least it seems like it is. The last few years, when David and I started Blackrocks in 2010, it was nothing like it is now. And then when Ore Dock and some of the other breweries came, all of a sudden it became a beer destination place. Not to mention you can go out and mountain bike or kayak during the day and then stop at the brewery. It's kind of a nice offering. And I think with the town growing, I don't see any reason why there couldn't be more breweries in this town, but the market definitely will dictate that. And it's funny because for a while, some breweries were coming around and it was, oh, what we need is another brewery. But at least the pot shops took the heat off us now, because there's so many pot shops opening up that everybody's going, oh, another pot shop? Who do you need one of those for? But the market will dictate that. And I guess I don't have that answer, but it seems like the town's growing a bit. I mean, it's still a small town. Marquette's not that big, but we'll see.
Yeah. Anyone else want to weigh in on that before I move on?
I'll just say that I know that when we started the brewery, when we were doing our renovations, we did the Smart Prize. And when we defended our idea, I was expecting that question. And instead of being asked that question, we were told by one of the people on the panel that we were being judged by that per capita, we should have 17 breweries in Marquette if we want to be like Grand Rapids. Now, not everybody can be Grand Rapids for breweries, but I mean, that just shows you, like, who knows? It could be, we could have a limitless beer, market here for all we know, as time moves on and this place grows like it's been.
Yeah, agreed. This is from Sarah. What kind of beer did the iron ore miners drink back in the day? I.e., what beer goes best with a pasty? It's a good Uper question right there.
I've had a pasty beer before at the beer fest, and they put ketchup on the rim of the glass. And then when people would bring their glass to your booth, there'd be ketchup all over it. So that's my only comment on pasties and beer.
Oh, I missed that one.
I don't know what they drank back then, but I mean, the Upper Peninsula Brewing Company was down the street in Marquette here, and they were relatively huge. I think they were doing more barrelage than all of us together. It was like 20,000 plus barrels a year. And one of our brewers tried to research what their beer Dry Kaiser was, and tried to figure it out a little bit, using, most local ingredients he could. And I don't know, it's just a fizzy yellow lager, I guess it ended up turning out to be, but it's all right,
Tucker would like to know what advice you have for someone who's just starting out in home brewing. Sounds like all three of you have experience with that. So
my advice would be to not be discouraged if you make beer that isn't great at first, and get a lot of advice from people that do it.
Yeah. And there's some decent programs out there you can get too, like Beersmith. And we never used that when we started out, and we at first we were just trial and error and everything, you know, and occasionally the blind squirrels found a nut and this beer tasted okay. And we're like, we did something right there. Check our notes, take notes or put it in Beersmith. So when you're throwing in a bunch of hops, you're not overbittering and you're kind of keeping it in the ballpark of whatever it is you're going for.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah, just relax and
Have a home brew.
have, that's what it was all about when we started. Yeah.
Yeah,
There you
yeah.
go. Yeah, it is simple, but you can't make it, you know, too crazy. Just keep everything clean, and that's the big part. You know, we know we're mostly janitors, and keeping our spaces clean, and you know, recipe development, you can find that. And I like to research any style that I do that I'm getting into. I research as much as I can and look at those you know, old formulated recipes and add to it, you know, add your own spin on it, and try to create great styles and see what happens. It's fun.
Cool. Well, there are some of our alums are dropping some beer names in the chat, so you might get some inspiration in there. A couple questions here too. We kind of touched on this a little bit with the supply chain issue, but has COVID had a positive or a negative impact on the craft beer industry as a whole? Do you have any other, I know we touched on the supply chain, but any other thoughts how things have changed?
Has it been positive or negative? Like the
Yeah. On the industry as a whole?
Really negative. I mean, there were beer fests canceled. Prices are up. We can't get materials that we need. Tap rooms were closed for a long time. You know, the positive was that I think it forced us all to innovate a little bit and become a little more creative with takeout options. And, you know, we were allowed to actually deliver for a while, which was kind of neat. But it was a drag. I think we all we're just hanging on over the last year and a half, and the aftershocks aren't gone yet. You know, I think there's definitely a segment of the population that's still not going to be comfortable with going into a tap room and hanging out with, you know, 50 other people within the immediate proximity. You know, we kind of got to buy this summer with some outdoor seating and you know, everything seemed cool, but you know, the gales of November are here, and it's getting colder here. It's supposed to snow this weekend, and yeah, it's been a tough year and a half for everybody. But in regards to breweries, unless I'm missing something, guys, it's been pretty tough.
Yep.
It's weird for us. You know, this happened when we had like 2 years open, and you know, I will say that I'm really happy that we you know, pack small package things for retail sale, because we couldn't sell a keg for, you know, the better part of the last year and a half. We couldn't serve it here. We couldn't sell it to an account because they couldn't be open, you know. And I'd say that having packaged beer is the only thing that made it. I couldn't imagine brew pubs that couldn't be open. I mean, what could you do, you know? So I feel thankful that it wasn't worse, but I agree with Andy that it's been a struggle.
Yeah, for sure. Been tough. I mean, we were lucky. We were into our phase of transitioning to our canning line and able to package more beer than we ever had. And that's literally what kept us floating, was putting beer in cans. I mean, and the brewing was slow, but it was just enough to keep going. And finally seeing those regulars come back into the tap room was an amazing experience. And yeah, you just love to see it. It makes you so happy just seeing the people that you haven't seen for a year and a half and having a beer with them and talking. You can't, there's nothing that, you know, that can replace that, I think.
Yeah, and Brendan just followed up with that. he assumes that increased sales in grocery stores, and that's what you're talking about with cans and stuff, right? Grocery store
Yeah,
sales helped, yeah.
we saw like an initial spike when I think it was when everybody was running out to get toilet paper. They were also grabbing beer at the same time.
Yeah.
So
The
there was that
essentials.
initial spike, and then it kind of just tapered off. But yeah, like what Nick said too, it was just that kept us alive, with the tap room gone, and that was not good for anybody. But man, I can't imagine if we hadn't had distribution. It would have been really, really tough.
Yeah. Brendan, also, I'd like to know when the next tap takeover in Traverse City is going to be for anybody.
Joe Black, our director of sales, he lives in Traverse. Brendan, I don't know if you know him, but he's got some event this weekend going on down there. I don't know what it is. Maybe you have like a beer event in Traverse. But yeah, check that out. I can find out. Let me check. I'll see what he's got going on.
I suppose we should all be having in Traverse City this month, right? Because isn't it craft beer month and craft beer week in Traverse City?
Oh, maybe.
Brendan said, yeah, I've met Joe at Seven Monks.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Perfect. Oh, I love this question, and maybe it'll inspire something. Do you have any plans for any collaboration beers, or have you brewed any in the past? Collaboration beers with each other or with other places, I suppose?
Well, we filled some of Andy's barrels to make some beers. I call that a bit of a collaboration.
Yeah.
And I collaborate with Jake in that we talk shop about beer. But that's a great question, because guys, we haven't done any actual collaboration beers, and we should.
You totally should.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, actually, we have been talking. The Bayou is still doing brewing now, or they started back up, and I think we are.
Yep.
We just talked about doing a collab with them recently, so I mean, yeah, the more we're getting back into it. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
We should all do it. It's fun.
You should do a beer and try to base it off of something Wildcats, your experience enemy or something. There we go.
Cat Brew.
Cat
Hey,
Brew.
Brandon, it's at Jacob's Farm. It's Flapjacks and Flannel Festival in Traverse City this weekend.
There you
Yeah.
go.
That sounds fun.
Flapjacks and flannel. I want to go there.
I'd fit right in.
Pancakes and beer.
Yeah, I think we all would fit in, right? That's
Yeah.
perfect. Kurt would like to know if you use any preservatives in your beer.
No.
In a way, just with the mixed culture in our bottles, it is kind of a preservative, but it's not like an artificial preservative. It's a acidification, from the culture. And all of us with the majority of all of our beer, I don't think is filtered. In a way, yeast is kind of a preservative in there too. But definitely no additive preservatives, I guess.
Yeah, no, nothing here. I know we've kicked the idea because there's those packaged beer with the yeast there can be scary because you don't want bottle bombs out in the field. So working on like Bramble on Rose, like we like to package that beer, but so now we're working on processes where you filter and then you add the fruit later, so there's no yeast present. That's basically working around adding preservative and keeping that beer without that additive in there and keeping it true to style and what we think we want the beer to be. So it can be a hurdle for a lot of people, especially if you can't afford a pasteurization machine.
We do an MSG IPA. It tastes like a salad bar at a buffet.
Yeah, Lisa wants to know too, speaking of flapjack and flannels, what's the history of plaid flannel shirts and craft brewers? I love them, she said. I think
Oh, no.
They're
it's a
so
brewer thing.
comfortable.
I'm the only one not wearing, I'm just wearing my shirt.
This is a faux flannel. This is not really, this is just like, I'm really only keeping my shoulders
That's
warm
only
here.
half flannel.
Yeah. The rest of me is freezing. My shoulders are toasty though.
Craig, thoughts on the news of Bell's being purchased? As indies, are you worried on the impact of conglomerates and they're scooping up so many independents?
Well, I mean, Bell's had quite a run. I mean, Larry was the pioneer in Michigan, and blazed quite a trail. I can't blame him for wanting to retire and to move on, and buy a private jet and a helicopter and
Right.
but no, I mean it's pretty amazing. Yeah, it's unbelievable, but they're not the first. I mean, they probably won't be the last. You look at Founders, Shorts, and the independent list is starting to grow a little bit shorter of independently brewed beer, and so I don't know.
Sorry, go ahead, Andy.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. No, you go.
You take it.
I'm still in shock, kind of, not because there's anything like wrong or weird about it, but just I never thought, all the other breweries that have sold it just was like, yep. But with Bell's, it's like, oh yeah, Bell's, sold. It's a little bit of a shock.
Andy, or Nick, you just turned off your video. Oh, there you are. You're back.
Sorry, somebody was calling me.
I thought it was because you were talking with your hands like you usually do.
No.
And you accidentally hit
no. That might cause other problems, but it didn't cause that one.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to send some shockwaves through the Michigan beer. Well, if not nationally,
Yeah.
But
right.
Sure.
people are like, what? Really? Bell sold?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
unreal. I mean, they're such an established brand, and congratulations, you sold,
Yeah.
but
It's a market
at
success at the end of the day. And I think it doesn't affect us. I mean, because we're centralized in the UP, and we're our own little niche of the world. But yeah, no, I think, it's great that if that's what they got to do, that's a mark of success, and it's pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kurt wants to know who is buying these breweries.
They were bought by Kieran, right? Same as New Belgium.
Yep.
Kieran.
Right.
Yep. International global conglomerate brewery magnates,
Yeah, I think New Belgium's their best known,
Yeah.
U.S. beer. Who do they have? Ichiban, and what's the name of that beer?
And
Ichiban,
Lion Stout, right, is one of the old brands associated with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're not the only one buying. AB was buying up breweries for quite a while. They were, like 10 Barrel Brewery. I mean, there was a pretty good list. Not Southern Tier. What's the one out in California? But anyways, they were buying all these breweries, and I think Miller kind of got in the game. Lagunitas, yep.
Yeah.
I mean, Heineken's got they got a chunk of Bells, right? Like some
really?
percentage. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I
there's different
remember,
groups out there.
there was a time when these big companies bought breweries and just basically shut them down or let them dwindle or whatever, just to stop them. But I think it was like right around the turn of the century here when they started to buy breweries to give them support and help them sell more and make better products. And, who knows what this means for Bell's beer. It could mean that.
Don't know.
It could be better than ever. I really don't know. I guess I don't know what to expect. I'm still in shock.
Yep.
This is a cool question from Brendan as well. Do you guys provide any opportunities for NMU students who are studying hospitality management or anything like that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Actually, we just had a group come through today. That they've been doing it every year about this time of year, and yeah, they do a section out front of house, and then they can come back to the back of house and do a tour of the brewery. And yeah, it's very informative for them. I think they kind of get a nice picture of what's going on here. Yeah, we've been doing that for several years now, I think.
We've had
think
some
we had-
interns. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think we had a group come through here, and we actually, one of our key employees, Alex Pelzwicks, is a graduate of that program, and I bet you Brendan Franklin knows her. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, we've had a couple interns. Some creative NMU students went to their advisors and said, "I'd like to do a internship there," and they make sure they're covering the parameters that they need to get credit for the class, and they come in and learn various facets of what's going on at the brewery. Actually, Jacob's roommate, Steven, he was
Yeah,
he was a microbiology major at Northern, so he came by to do an internship in our lab, just to and we hired him, and he's still here today on the canning line and doing some lab work. And so yeah, Northern, I think Northern should have its own brewery, really. That'd be kind of cool, or its own program,
That would be cool.
I think it would be cool. Wildcat beer at the Berry Event Center for the hockey games,
There you
Yeah.
go.
brewed by students.
Yeah.
But I don't have time to set it up. you guys, that would be really
No.
sweet though.
if Wildcat Willie is a part of it, I'll do it.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
he'll be the head brewer.
Right.
Yeah. I wonder if you can hold a mash paddle with those gloves on though.
I wouldn't want to get boiling wort on that fur.
Oh man. Have you ever seen Wildcat Willie skate at the hockey games? He's quite good. Or he's quite good. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the very first step you took when you're opening your breweries? How did you get started? I think Andy, you talked a little bit about that in your beginning.
Yeah.
But what was kind of the first jump for any of you?
Go ahead, guys.
I mean, the first jump really is just actually deciding that you actually want to do it, and then starting to plan it and figure it out. It really kind of becomes actually doing it. It was our experience more than anything. It's like, you have to like do the steps, and as you're doing the steps, you're doing it, and it was really, for us, it was kind of organic, I guess, in the planning to starting the brewery.
And I'd be the man out from Nick and Andy, but yeah, it's just like, for me, it was working at a plant that was 12-hour shifts. You're on this crazy working schedule, but I'm literally making beer and distilling it into ethanol, like as pure as it can be. And then I'm thinking to myself, oh, I just need to make beer. I can do that. And you just got to think about it. You got to do more research for yourself. And I did as much as I could, and just finally made that jump to like, oh, I could be a brewer. I think I can do that. And that's when I started my jump to that. But I didn't start a brewery. I came into it as a brewer, and as under unit,
Yeah. And me, it was just urgency. I was unemployed. I needed to do something in order to stick around town. And I don't want to go anywhere other than Marquette. So we just found a way. And Nick alluded to it. A lot of it is just setting up your checklists. And, it's such a daunting task to open something up, even as small as Blackrocks was when we opened. But you got to scrape together the money you need somehow. And you have to have those checklists, and you need to start actually crossing them off. And, at some point you reach the bottom, and the sign flips and it says open, and
And then you take a nap.
no, and then you pour at the taps for a couple months straight before you take a nap. It's all good.
Logan says the Marquette breweries are diverse in product and atmosphere, but if a new brewery came in, what would you like to see? / what are we missing, either in beer styles or in an atmosphere?
I don't know if we're really missing any styles, are we?
We got it pretty much covered.
Do we need more spruce tip beer? I don't know.
I'll get on that. I don't know what I want to see for an atmosphere. I guess, like one thing that none of us have is, for the three of us, that is like a full kitchen. I don't know if that's a thing. Obviously, we have the Veerling and we have the smokehouse and all that, which they do have, both have great food. So yeah, I don't know. That's a really tough question. Like, could we use more breweries? Maybe. What would they be like? I don't know.
I think it would be on a big boat, and it'd be great. It would be great for 6 months out of the year. And you get on, and your tap room is the boat, and you just take a cruise through the harbors and up around Partridge Island.
Yeah.
And you come back and pick up the next crew.
There you go.
Yeah. Gilligan's Island.
Somebody's
I'm not kidding.
Somebody's
Somebody's gonna do it now. Somebody's
gonna do it.
I think the beer boat tour would be pretty amazing.
One other thing that comes up that isn't a brewery, but the idea of, how many breweries we have that are basically right on or really close to this bike path, is to take people with their bikes on a bus to, Ishpeming, and then they can roll downhill and go to all of our breweries and, take a cab home.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
You don't even need an e-bike for that. It's all downhill.
No, it's all downhill.
Yeah, you just need brakes.
Don't go the other way.
They do have beer, like a beer fest on a boat in Chicago that I used to go to a lot, which was always super fun. So you'd get on a boat and everybody has like tables. It's like literally a beer fest, but it's on a boat. So
like a cruise ship boat, or like what kind of boat? It's a big boat. Hey?
Yeah, like a big boat that has like different levels and stuff. Yeah, and then each brewery is just set up with like a table and stuff. I think we totally could do that here.
Yeah,
that's a great idea.
There's a niche
We've
that
got a big boat.
when the cannabis and the beer finally cross.
There you
and
go.
Then we have all these concoctions of beautiful, light-hearted CBD drinks and heavy barrel-aged cannabis elements to the. That's, if we're going anywhere, that's where we're eventually going to be.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know where the laws are going with any of that now, if they're going anywhere, but I'm sure that people are going to be ready to jump on that idea.
Yes. I've been fooling around with my homebrewing thing for years. I've tested my own batches out. So it's going to happen eventually. We just, that could be another thing. That's another niche that's not quite
even in existence. Yeah.
So the three of you are gonna pool together and buy a cruise ship, right? That's where
it'll be a big boat, but we're gonna have little captain's hats.
Yeah.
But instead of the typical, it's gonna have like a barley going up the side.
There you go.
Perfect.
That'd be cool.
I feel like we just developed a new business plan right here. I mean, there you go. That's how you take the first jump. You just have a conversation with a bunch of like-minded people, right?
Yep, we're doing it right here.
Yeah.
Now.
You got a 50-foot boat?
Yeah, no problem.
Sure.
That's exactly what I have.
There used to be a boat cruise in town, and they would actually have featured beers from local breweries and go out and cruise around. So it wasn't really a tap room, but
that was just that was going on just a few years ago, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah.
So,
it was pretty cool. I think you need a bigger boat, though. I think we're going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah.
Well, Travers had the Naughty Cat where they had bands out there, and
Yeah,
You get a live band and a bunch of beer, like you can't not have a good time, right?
Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
There we go. Kurt said, food for thought. I watched the World Series at a brewery on their Jumbotron. Interesting.
What?
He said he
The
watched
wor-
the World Series at a brewery on their Jumbotron as we're thinking of new things to have in the area.
Oh, yeah.
We don't even have a tube television here yet, so
Right. Kurt also would like to know what the shelf life of a keg is.
that depends.
Yeah.
What's in the can? It could be weeks or it could be years, you know. If you're talking about a really hoppy, fresh beer, you know, you don't want to wait too long. You know, as that keg empties, that above the beer, that headspace, that's all full of that hop aroma. And as it goes down, that hop aroma is staying and it's not in your beer anymore. But if you're talking about like a big old stout or something, especially if it's naturally carbonated in the keg and has no oxygen, it could literally just evolve and taste better for years.
Nice.
Jeff in the comments, probably related to you, Jake.
That's Papa, yeah.
Yeah. So he said we have
Jeff.
we've been to all breweries represented tonight and enjoy each of them for specific brews, music, and camaraderie. That brings up a point too that I really love the way that this industry supports one another, and you don't look at each other as competition. You know, it's really a camaraderie, and you guys all, you know, have worked together. You have each other's backs and help each other out when needed too. So is that something that's unique to Marquette because we're a small area, or is it something that's unique to the brewing industry as a whole that you've run into?
I've seen it as a brewing industry. I'm doing collabs downstate. I just sitting in the pub, they'd have another guy run up from the brewery or, you know, up the street, like, hey, can you taste this porter? There's something strong, there's something weird. So I've seen that before. And you know, even locally now, it's even more like, well, if I'm short a bag in Munich, I'll call the guys at Blackrocks, say, hey, come over. And like Nick said, like, I'll come home with a case of beer and a couple bags of grain and maybe an extra bag of hops, you know? So we do that. We do these collaborations, like it's under the belt, whatever, mostly. People don't see it as much as we see it because we are all connected and we do that all the time without thinking.
Yeah, I think we cover each other's backs. You know, there's been times we needed cardboard and we go to the Ore Dock and you guys would help us out in a pinch. And, you know, Jay Clancy up at Cognition, same thing, you know. And I don't know, was it like that in Wisconsin when you were brewing down there, Nick?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. Yep. I think I've never been involved in any industry, anything like this in terms of collaboration on a real level like that, or have ever had an experience in this industry that isn't like that.
Sorry, I'm moving here, but my battery's about to die on here.
Uh-oh.
On my
Well,
iPad.
we're close to wrapping up anyways. I got to
No
all the
worries.
questions on here, but I want to just I want to close it out with one question, I think. What's your favorite beer that you've ever brewed and why? Nick, I'll start with you.
Oh my goodness, that is such a hard question. I'm just going to bring my frame of reference to recent beers to make it easier on myself. And I think that right now I'm really excited about a beer we've been making called Heritage. And it's like I said earlier, we do a lot of beers that are, most of our beers, in fact, are Michigan sourced beers, but we do some beer with malt from, you know, France and Belgium to do kind of the traditional kind of profile of these beers, rather than the local kind of ingredient profile of these beers. And Heritage happens to be a beer where we blend barrel-aged saisons made with one saison made with Michigan ingredients one made with French and Belgian ingredients. And this becomes the beer called Heritage. And I just really like that, we're able to do that we're able to have, both of these beers on their own and together. And I like that in this case, that this is a beer that we're canning because we just started canning this summer. And we haven't replaced bottles. We've just added cans, and we've developed these beers for the cans. And that is the one beer that we intentionally put in the cans that really hit the spot for me.
Amazing. Jake, what about you?
Well, probably what I'm drinking right now, which is Berserker, is
That's a good
of
one.
my favorite beers that I've made. Partially because it's kind of back to my heritage, like Nick says, heritage roots of my family are part of Norway. It's a Norwegian yeast that's been recently cropped up into our plethora of organisms that we brew with or ferment with. And I just love how it makes great hazy beers, as you know, as a very big a thing everywhere in the US. Really hoppy, and it just has this great sense of floral and fruity and tropical senses that blend with the hops that we put into the beers. And yeah, I'd say cheers to that because it is a very nice hazy.
Cheers to that. Yes. Andy, how about you?
It's like trying to pick your favorite kid.
Right.
You just want to pick one beer. But I guess if I had to pick favorite that the brewers are putting out right now, I'd probably say I really like when stuff comes out in the pale ale range. I think we mentioned that before we got on here, but I know it's not the fanciest style out there. It's not at all trendy, but I think pale ales are a great style of beer. I think they're just hoppy enough to really keep it interesting, but they're not too hoppy, and they're not 7 or 8%. They're usually around 5%. So like Starman's coming out pretty quick. I think that's a terrific beer. Presque Ale is kind of in the pale ale range. I really like that one a lot too. So yeah, I drank a lot of Presque Ale this summer. I'd probably go with that one.
Great. And thank you guys so much for joining us. This was a really fun conversation. I feel like we could sit here and talk for another couple hours, but so we'll have to do it again soon. So thank you all for joining us. I really appreciate it. And then everybody tuning in, thank you very much for joining in and helping us move along the conversation. And we had some really great questions too. So we're looking forward to continuing this Northern Now series too. So make sure that you go and you register for the holiday cooking segment with Chef Alden, which we're hosting on December 15th. So check that out on our website. Also, don't forget to participate in NMU Day of Giving, which is coming up on November 30th, and support the team, department, or program that helped get you to where you are today. You can learn more about both of those at nmu.edu/alumni. I'll also be sending out a short survey tomorrow for you to complete so you can tell us what you liked about the event, and then some topics that you want to hear about in the future as well. And then I'll also be choosing one winner to win a alumni t-shirt, so keep an eye on your email for that. And if you have any follow-up questions that you think of, feel free to send them to alumni@nmu.edu, and I can get those to the brewers for you. Follow us on social media, keep in touch. We love hearing about things that our alumni are doing, and we love having conversations like this. So thank you all for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Go Cats.
Thanks.
Thanks. Cheers. Go Cats.
Cheers.
Go Cats.
Cheers.
Oh, I left my beer in the other room.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Thanks, Kylie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good night. Bye, Andy.
Bye-bye. See you, Jake. See you, Nick.
See you guys. Cheers.
Let's have a beer soon.
We'll
Sounds
see you
great.
soon. Oh, yeah.
I turn this off.